I took a break after I was stabbed in the back by entrepreneurs, celebrities. I made them very successful. And then I learned every time I'm being praised, hey, what's that? Oh, it's a dagger in my back. Run at the things that challenge you and frustrate you and give you the anxiety, the fear, the overwhelm that make you depressed, and see what happens when you push against it. And so I want to grow this podcast even more, but I refuse to do it on social media. Come on, we can next level this. But I realize that next leveling everything can be exhausting.
This is the Podcast in the Rough. Tune in every Friday for new adventurous episodes.
Welcome back to another great episode of the Podcast in the Rough. This is episode 151, and I'm your host, Zebulon Thomas. Today, I want to talk to you a little bit more about mental health awareness, social media, some of the updates been going on in my personal podcast community mastermind group. Some exciting, some new news. Some is like me learning the ropes a little bit, going, is this really what I want to do? And I want to talk to you about, how social media might be affecting you. It's something I've been talking about in this season 5, talking more about the effects of social media on our mental health, our well-being. And I share this because not only do I want to share with you the success and all the incredible opportunities you can have on social media, but I also want you to evaluate the time you're spending on it and what you're getting in return, what you're getting back from it. Is it really worth it? Last week, I did not do an episode. I needed to take a break. It was very important, and I was trying to regroup and strategize along with being extremely busy in my business as ZT Films. However, Friday morning when I tuned in to listen to some of the podcasts that I'm subscribed to, one of them being Arnold Schwarzenegger's Arnold's Pump Club, it was exciting to learn that he did an episode dedicated to mental health and social media as well. I was excited about this because if you caught episode 150 the week prior, the podcast art was dedicated to me as the cover poster, swapping out Arnold Schwarzenegger in his Last Action Hero cover poster for the movie. It was a promo. And I do love doing my cover art, tapping into nostalgia and movies. That's been a theme for me. And I tagged Arnold Schwarzenegger. I've worked with Arnold Schwarzenegger. And the week leading up to episode 150, I decided to post this cover art in advance to just promote the episode that was coming out, get a little bit more traction. And I wanted to tag my friend, Arnold. I got to meet Arnold years ago at the Arnold Classic, and then I had the opportunity to do productions at the Arnold Sports Festival and work with a lot of exciting people. And I shared the story on how I met Arnold Schwarzenegger in a previous episode 114. I believe that's season 3. So definitely tune into that episode and learn all about it. However, I tagged Arnold in this social media post, as I do many times when I'm posting something beneficial. I don't just tag him in everything, but especially if it's something related to him. And so I tagged him in this. And I did this for several reasons. One, I did it because I wanted to show him the art that I did. I thought it was really cool, having me in the poster art for Last Action Hero. But mainly I wanted to share with him the effects of social media on our mental health and how I too am taking on the lessons learned in his podcast, working at building my podcast to be a positive corner of the internet, as Arnold shares. And if you've ever been close to Arnold, you'll know that community is very important to him. And putting our phones down is also extremely important because, him and I both grew up in a time where the internet did not exist. And we watched it evolve, unfold, and turn into this alternate reality. And he talks a lot about it. And I love how a lot of the internet today could be closely compared to what you see in the movies, Terminator, Last Action Hero, a lot of these nostalgia films that predicted what the future would be like. However, there's definitely some things that are going on that are dangerous to us. And they may not be machines, cybernetic organisms. However, they are social media platforms. And so I wanted to talk to you about this because I just recently was thinking to myself, I personally am moving away from social media. But first, let me clearly define social media from my point of view, my opinion. Social media to me means that you're on applications that are on your phone. Something like Twitter, or now called X, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn. Anywhere that you can upload, share a bio about you, upload content, receive content, share in a conversation, make comments, like, subscribe. That to me is social media. That to me has an algorithm. That is something that demands engagement and our time and attention. However, just getting on the internet, going to a website, searching Google or whatever you use to search for information, that is not social media. So when I say I'm leaving social media, I'm trying to get away from that. I mean that I'm getting away from these platforms that are corrupt, that are affecting our mental health. I'm not saying that they're bad. There's plenty of good on social media, absolutely. And I find myself scrolling and seeing things that are on social media that make me laugh, and I love that. And I will share that. And I'm grateful for the content creators that create that kind of content. That's amazing. But it's very hard when you're seeing a whole bunch of stuff come through the feed that is not really entertaining to you in that manner. If I want to laugh all day, I don't want to be subject and shown news, what's going on, violence, political stuff. There's a lot of things I don't really want to engage in. If I want to learn about that stuff, then I will turn on the news or I will hear it from somebody and then I will go look into it and see if it's something that pertains to me. How does it affect me directly or indirectly? How can I help? How can I support this? Or if there's nothing I can do at all, I need to move forward. The problem is a lot of us is seeing social media. We're being marketed to constantly. We're being solicited to all of this information that we didn't ask for. There's things that I've been shown on social media that I never would have searched. I'm not thinking about, I'm not interested in, and there it is. And it's not something to me that I feel is safe for our kids, especially for our kids. Their brains are still developing. And it's not something good for individuals that are going through challenges in their mental health. And I feel that it can affect you down the road if you're not careful. And it has affected me. A lot of things affected me. I'm not saying that social media is the cause. There's a lot of things that I'm going through in my life, past trauma, stress, life changes. And these are all things that are at the core of what I'm experiencing. But when I get on social media, these things spill me over. It's things I'm not ready for. I can't handle it. I'm not ready for that. Especially coming from a content creator and an entrepreneur. I don't really know social media to be some place where I'm going to go and just enjoy myself. It's always been a place where I got to grind, I got to upload, I got to strive, I got to work hard to get exposure. I'm trying to get the views, the likes, the shares, all those things up. And I'm not personally talking about, for me, it's mainly for my clients. For me, however, yes, I was in the golden age of YouTube. It was exciting. Jumped on YouTube, started doing videos and vlogs. I enjoyed building a community, a subscriber base, getting the comments, getting to know the people that are subscribed to my channel, and doing my best to get to know as many as I could before the channel got too big to where I really didn't know half of them because they came and subscribed too quick. And I would learn about them in the comments and build that little relationship in the community and just know that my videos were helping people. And I would get some requests, do a cool video about this, and it was something that was really exciting. When it turned over to the commercial side of my business, like ZT Films, that was where I was uploading my work. Like, check out my, this is what I've done. This is a showcase of, my reels, if you will. And this is what I've done for other clients if you'd like to see it. Or I would do a big YouTube video early on when I didn't have funding, and I would do a big video to have everyone come together and support this business, this brand, and we'd make a fun video, and that would go viral. And what I mean by viral is go viral because it was organic. Everyone involved wanted to share it with other people and say, look, this is a video I was in. We had so much fun. And it was an experience. And we were outside enjoying the real world, creating these videos. So like when the video was finished, I might have spent a few hours on the video to edit it. When it was uploaded, we were done. We moved on. We were on to the next thing. We shared it. It was cool. It's a memory to look back on. And then YouTube changed. And it took away monetization, made it extremely challenging. They've added all these restrictions. They favored the big companies, the advertisers, not the content creators. And then so everyone left. Literally, almost everybody left. Every big, content creator, YouTuber that I knew bailed out. They went to other platforms. They just left. They made their money. They were out. I went on to creating commercials for big brands and said I'd figure out what this wave of change is going to be about. And it was never really about me on social media, on YouTube. It was always about the people I put in the lens. And I did vlogs, and then I was done doing vlogs. And so I left a little bit. I left a little bit to go serve other people. And when I came back, everything was different on YouTube. And it looked promising. It was like, let's get back into this. We can make some noise here and, make some good content and grow our channel and meet a whole bunch of people and build this community again. And we realized quickly that the new algorithm wasn't allowing that. There's too many restrictions. It's extremely hard to get anywhere on that. And so that weighs on your mental health, especially if you're a content creator. You're trying to grow this and you're trying to get this thing to work. And you realize that it's not that your efforts aren't good enough. Your content's not good enough. It is. Your efforts, you're doing it, you're putting in the time, you're putting in the work, you're excited about it, but you have this thing called an algorithm. And if your content doesn't beat to the drum of their agenda, or if it's something that isn't something searchable, they think they know, right? And it's catered only to make the advertisers and YouTube a lot of money. It's not catered to make you successful. You can get more exposure running around your community, meeting everybody you know or everyone you run into and saying, hi, check me out, go follow this and tune in every day than you would if you were relying on this algorithm to do what it's supposed to do and share your content with the people that are interested in it. So it's broken, it's breaking down. And so I bring this up because, again, social media is not a bad place if you're there to learn and grow. However, if you don't want to be solicited, then don't be there. And so I looked this up recently, and I asked the question, what percentage of the population of people are on social media? So according to the research that I've pulled up, the current percentage of people using social media is 61.4% of the world's total population. So when you look at this, yes, there are more people using social media than there are not. However, a lot of the stuff I've been looking at and researching, and just recently I was at this event filming, and I started asking a lot of people about social media and where I could find them. And to my surprise, a lot of people told me one of two things. We're not on social media. We don't do that. That was the biggest percent of the community I was in, saying they're not even on. They don't have a Facebook. They don't do any of that. They might do a little email. That's it. And some of these were retired. Some of these individuals, were in their career, heavy in their career, so they're very busy. They don't have time for that. And then there's another percentage of people that were telling me, here's my social media. I'm not really active. In fact, I don't hardly even go on there anymore. And so I'm like, wow. So I asked, why is that? And they said, because it's just toxic. And so I went to someone else. Well, why don't you engage in social media a lot? Like, is it something that you enjoy? No. There's too much politics on there. Okay. What else? It's too much fake news, too much violence. I can't get any traction. Some of the content creators are like, yeah, it's a mess. I'd rather just go work a job, right? The problem is it's overly saturated. And because it's overly saturated, the people that are staying with it have figured some things out. And if you look this up, this is disturbing. But if you look up, what content gets promoted by the algorithm and pushed, especially on Instagram and TikTok, it's disturbing. It will push anything political that creates a debate, that causes upset, overwhelm, anger in people. It'll push that content because it sells. It'll also push content that solicits sex, which is inappropriate in so many ways because of the amount of people that I know personally that are on these platforms that should not be solicited to. And I'm talking younger individuals. And yes, I know there's an age limit to a lot of these platforms, but they're on there. And this stuff is just readily being solicited to all people. It knows what your gender is, if you're male or female, and it will tailor the content to feed you what they think you should see in explicit ways. And I'm not saying that nudity and things like that are bad. I'm saying if I don't want to see it, or if these individuals are not of age to see it, it should not be solicited and promoted. Yes, you can flag it, you can block it, but the fact that the very content that is being blocked and being banned for breaking the rules is the content that the algorithm will push and promote more of. And so that's disturbing. And you can search this. Just type in what content is promoted the most. And you can get, I'm not going to get specific on here just for parental reasons. I don't know who's listening. I'm going to be respectful. But if you dig into that, you're going to find out. I mean, there's a whole article. And if you ask about it, I'll post the article inside my podcast community mastermind group on Facebook. If you're a part of the group, check it out. It's free to join. If you want to join the group and you haven't joined the group, just go to thepodcastintherough.com/learn, and we can learn about podcasting. And so I wanted to bring this up because, again, I'm looking at things in my life and going, where am I spending my most time? What is taking the most of my time? Where am I spending my time? How am I, doing the thing that's moving me forward, my family forward? Is it serving me? And we're in weird times right now, very strange times, and it's upsetting. But it doesn't mean everything's bad. It's not a bad day. It's just, it is when you're bombarded and you spill over because of the things being pumped to your eyeballs, if you will, or even your ears. I actually have my audio turned off all the time. So when I'm on social media, I don't hear anything. So if I'm searching, I'm visually doing it because I don't want to see something that I don't want to see. I can scroll past it, and then all of a sudden the audio is there, and it's like a reminder, and it's a mess. It can be a mess. I'm not saying everybody's as sensitive, right? I'm not sensitive to this stuff. It's just there's a thing called spillover, right? It's where you've taken on so much in your life or in the world, or your week is very busy, or you're trying to do better things, or you're trying to make a shift, you're trying to change. It's as simple as, hey, you know what? I'm on this diet. I love chocolate cake and ice cream, but I'm going to avoid it just so that I can get past the cravings, eat healthier foods. But then imagine everywhere you turn, chocolate cake and ice cream, and they're eating it, and they're showing you how it's made, and they're like, oh, this is so good. And guess what? There's sales on it, and like, it's right here. I'll just give it to you, right? And so you're being tempted to eat the chocolate cake and ice cream when you know you're trying to make a change in your life. If you're trying to see positivity in the world, you're trying to do better, be a better person, and you come from traumatic experiences, and you have, post-traumatic stress or anxiety or any like depression, and you're seeing like all these amazing success stories and fake news about people becoming celebrities overnight, and they're making all this money, or fake news of like things that are going on that are not true, and they spike your anxiety. Like all these things are going to contribute to your mood. And if you're already at like the top, it's going to spill you over. And so sometimes we need to take a break. Look, I took a break from social media. I've talked about this several times on this podcast. I took a break after I was literally stabbed in the back by multiple entrepreneurs, celebrities, and other business executives that I made them millions and millions of dollars. I made them very successful. I jumped into their projects and poured my heart into their projects and gave them all my time. And I thought I was making friends, and I thought I was doing really good, and I was praised. And then I learned every time I'm being praised, hey, this guy's so good, or Zebulon's the best, and I turn around, I'm like, what's that? Oh, it's a dagger in my back, right? So I left social media because I was like, enough is enough. I got to find myself again. And so I bring that up because I want all of you to just be aware that you're not spilling over. And if you are, like, you're having a rough day, it might be, you might have tuned into something on social media that did it. It used to be like, hey, why's your day rough? Oh, I got up and I didn't have any milk for my cereal, so I had to eat it with water, right? And, oh, that little thing? Oh, man. And then it became a big thing, and now your day's messed up for that. And when we go back to those things, we're like, oh, you know what? My day's actually pretty good. I'm over that, But now it's like, why is your day so bad? What's going on? Oh, it's because what I got shared and solicited to on social media that just wrecked me, or it caused me a little anxiety that grew and grew and grew, and I started thinking about it in the back of my mind, and or I'm just not enough. Every time I post something, I don't get any views. I don't get what everyone else is getting. I'm trying to play their game. And that's the other thing. A lot of people are saying, I'm going to play the game, and that game is, how much negativity can I feed into this system? And then we're going to make money. And they don't realize, like, what's your moral goal here? To affect people, to hurt people? I got so many people jumping on, I'm not going to say who, but celebrities that are in the news right now, in the press, in the media, all over the place, that haven't been able to speak about it. Everybody's just jumping on. They don't even know them. They weren't interested in that celebrity, if you will. And now all of a sudden they're like, oh, it's a topic they're talking about. Let's throw our own garbage to that. Let's grab something on social media and throw it together. And even if it's fake and it hurts a lot of people, who cares? We're going to get the views. At the end of the day, those views, what do they do for you? If you're building a community on content that isn't what you're about, and then you think someday, eventually, you're going to be like, hey, here I am. I'm the real person behind this content, and this is the new stuff I really want to do. They're going to be like, get out of here. I'm not going to be a part of that. And so you'll never win that. So I want to say this to you, anyone listening to this, if you're tuning into this podcast, wherever you see this episode, comment and let me know how social media is affecting you, good or bad. I'm not saying everyone has to leave. I'm saying is the social media has to shift. There has to be a shift. There has to be a change. It's at a point right now where the algorithm's not working. It's not serving us. It's making it very hard for content creators or anyone to be successful at this thing. And I see local businesses and big businesses, and they're affected, but they're affected in their pockets because they have to throw more money at it, or they have to hire a bunch of people and feed this thing constantly. And the bar will keep raising and raising and raising until you have to either dump more money or hire a duplicate of the people and quadruple your posts on a daily basis. And it's insane. It's just insane. And so, I'm anxious to see where it goes. By all means, I think social media has brought a lot of exciting things to this world, and it's made my life exciting in certain ways. I will say that it's something that I've learned a lot of things. I've learned stuff that I don't want to learn, right? I've learned stuff. I've also learned that there's so much fake stuff out there that everyone will just take what they see and believe it to be true and then go share it without even trying to check it or think about if that's legit or not. And that's scary too. It's just ridiculous that a lot of us don't think when it comes to this. So I want to share with you some of the updates to things that I've been doing inside my Podcast Community Mastermind Facebook group that I find interesting and also frustrating. The newest thing I've applied is, if you're in the group, you've seen this. I posted up in the group. I was frustrated because I keep looking at my group and I'm like, my engagement was down. And I'm like, what is going on? I've done this several times, not just with myself, but with other entrepreneurs and big companies, and the engagement's always been amazing. It's been fine, and we have our dips, but this is like way down. I had talked about this in previous episode where I reached out to other people and I started asking my friends that are, have big followings and big groups. We're talking like huge, hundreds of thousands of people in their Facebook groups. And they looked at their engagement and they go, oh, it is way down. They're still getting engagement. However, that engagement is way low and they didn't notice it until they looked at it. And they're like, oh, yeah, you're right. It's way down. Like, this shouldn't be. And I started looking at that. And so I started digging into my Facebook group and I was like, the engagement is way low. And I'm looking at how many people seeing my post. And I'm like, okay, they're seeing it, but not everyone's seeing it. So I started doing some research. And when I do the research, then it's like, Facebook or Google will say, if you have a Facebook group and it's not getting engagement, it's because the people don't like your content. And I'm like, really? People don't like my content? It's not good enough. Your content's not good. I'm like, no way. People that signed up for this group, they're here to learn. They want to learn podcasting. So I bought into that. And I jumped to my Facebook group and I was like, hey, if you guys don't want this content, I'm not going to post it. If you're seeing this, like it. Well, then I'm like, well, that doesn't make it a difference because if they're not seeing it already, they're not going to see this post. Right? So it's like, they're not going to like it. Right? And I was like, okay. Well, then I was frustrated. I was like, all right, let me dig a little bit deeper. I'm like, we're just going to get rid of people that are inactive in the group. And I was really caught on that. I was like, I'm going to do this. I think it's a good thing. So then I found this program. It's a plugin actually for Google Chrome. And it's called Facebook Group Filter.io. And so I'm using this Facebook group filter inside my Facebook group to just weed out anyone who's not active. And so I start running this thing and it will tell me who's not active and their engagement levels. And I'm like, all right, well, it's just going to be simple. Just pull them up, wipe them out. And then I was like, well, what about new members that just came in the group? I'm like, all right, well, I'll wait 30 days. So every 30 days, we're going to run this filter. And I started thinking a little bit deeper on it. I'm like, okay, but I'm in some groups and I'm not communicating and I'm not sharing or liking, but I'm in the groups because one day, like ATM Mini, it's this device I have for my live streaming. Something goes wrong with this thing when I'm trying to run it. I need to be able to quickly jump into a group and get information that'll solve this problem. And so I'm in there. I have nothing to share or talk about, but I'm looking at everyone's posts and I'm learning about my ATM Mini and about certain updates. And, if things go wrong when I'm live streaming and I got to do something or I'm with a client like this, I'm like, I got to be able to turn to this thing and, hey, here's what's going on. And I know I can get the feedback that I need. So I'm trying to build that in my community is have, everyone contribute when they need it. It's just not big enough yet. It's not there yet. And so I realized this and I was like, okay, so I can't really kick people out of the group. I don't want to. I don't wish to. I would like to enforce engagement in the group so that people have to stay in this group. However, that's not why I started this group and that's not my intention. My intention is to have a group of people that come together to learn podcasting and I can share podcasting tips and tricks with. I would like to get feedback. So I started thinking okay, how would it feel to be a teacher at a school when you walk to a school and every day you show up and you're standing in the room and there's no kids in the room, but you're still going through the motion and writing on the chalkboard and reading the book and handing out the papers and then collecting the papers and grading the papers. It's just going to be the same thing, but there's no one there. Would a teacher do that all year if no kids were in the classroom? They're not even getting paid. Let's not say they're even getting paid. Would they do it? I don't even think someone would do that even if they were getting paid. At some point, it would mess with them. They'd be like, mentally, this is exhausting. What is the purpose? Yeah, I'm getting a check, but what is the purpose? It comes down to your purpose. So like I bet you that if a teacher wasn't getting paid and they were able to serve those kids and help them have a brighter future, and they were actively engaged and there's challenges to help them overcome, even though they weren't getting paid, that person would stay there. They'd probably stay there longer than a year because their purpose is to help people. And so I started thinking about my purpose. Like, what is my purpose in this group? Well, my purpose is to create content, like I said, that helps people grow with podcasting. And I would like feedback from that. So to encourage that feedback, I just have to ask more. And then I was like, it's not even about asking more or making better content. It's the algorithm. The algorithm is not showing my content or any of the group updates to the members. It can't do it. Some of these people follow too many people, or they're part of too many other groups. And I can't expect them to be part of just one group in my group. I haven't earned that yet. So I'm still keeping the filter plugin to kind of look and see what's going on. Because yes, there will be some members that are just not active, but it's in the group rules. I even updated. It's probably not going to be enforced. It's not a thing. Because here's the thing. Instead, I said, what if I messaged all of my group members and just let them know every week, hey, thank you for being a part of this group. Let them know about the algorithm. Encourage them to check back in. Tell them I'm here for them. Whether they want to post in the group, they can post anonymous, or they can message me directly. I want to help. And so that is what I'm preparing right now. I'm preparing a nice letter that's going to go out to all the group members. I'm going to send a direct message to. And I'm going to personalize it as much as I can, but I'm going to send it out. And it's just to let them know, hey, I'm here. Because I realize it's not my members. It's not the community. I have this community. They wanted to be in the group. They answered the questions. They got past those filters. So why kick them out? Just because an algorithm punished them because the algorithm's not showing it to them? That's not fair. But I was so believing that it was like, oh, it was me, it was my content. It was the fact that no one wanted me. No one wants my content. And it was like, oh, and it started to mess with me a little bit. Thank goodness I started thinking outside the box again and going, no. This is not the thing. It's not the thing. That's not why. Because if someone didn't like my content, they're not sticking around in the group. I don't stick around for things I don't like. I just unsubscribe or I'm out. I haven't given anybody a reason to say, hey, this is garbage, I'm out. Or maybe here's the thing. My group is also designed to say, okay, we got you where you need to go. You're very successful. And maybe you just don't want to be part of the group anymore because you got everything you could out of this. Awesome. Maybe you'll come back. Maybe we'll join your group. And that's where it really is. But I really think it comes down to not just building community because I'm posting content, building a community that I can talk to and get to know everyone in it. And it takes me, the host of this podcast community mastermind, to reach out and start to build that relationship, that communication. And so that's what I'm doing. And so I did get some amazing things from the post, even though some of my friends thought that it was negative, like the people closest to me. So people felt my frustration in that post. And then there was another post that I said, hey, this is what I can help you with. And I listed like every single thing I could think of. I just dumped it. What do you want? You want this, you want that, you want that, you want this, I could do this, I could do that, bam, 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 bam. Like, hello, I'm here, waving over here frequently, just waving my hands, throwing stuff up in the air. Got all the strobe lights on me going, check me out over here, right? Making all this noise, look at me. And I didn't get any like immediate feedback. And then all of a sudden I got a comment or two, a like, but something good happened from that. Someone reached out. I started building a communication with, started thinking of ideas. Might have a partnership, looking to do something really cool. It's another podcast opportunity. And then I'm like, do I have time for another podcast? Well, yes, I do. I do have time for another podcast project because it's exciting and it's something different. It's allowing me to have a different outlet that I cannot share all the time here that I don't feel fits on the Podcast in the Rough. So it was because of that, it moved me forward and that was helpful. So run at the things that challenge you and frustrate you and give you the anxiety, the fear, the overwhelm that make you depressed. Run at those things and see what happens when you push against it, when you speak the truth, when you say what you should say, but you try not to say it because you're afraid of judgment and you just speak your mind. Things unfold and new opportunities arrive and it's amazing. And you got to be ready for that. So that's what I wanted to talk to you on this episode of the Podcast in Rough. I wanted to share with you. And the other update is, please go take some time and check out the website, thepodcastinrough.com, because I moved it away from the one amazing website I loved, like the automated area. But I realized that I could do the same thing without having to invest all this money into this other platform, even though I did love it. It was amazing. And there's a lot of bells and whistles that are gone. But at its core, I did that and I pulled back from that because I noticed a lot of people weren't going to the website. It's not how they found it. And so I'm going to tell you what I'm going to try to do, and my goal, and I'm listen, you got to test everything. You got to try it at least once, right? And maybe not everything, but so you got to try the things that are going to possibly help you move forward or get you unstuck. You got to try those things. And so I want to grow this podcast even more, but I refuse to do it on social media. I'm getting tired of that. It's wasting a lot of my time. And I think, how much more can I bring to this podcast? How much more energy and time can I commit to this podcast if I were to remove myself from social media and stop feeding that crap, feeding this algorithm that's just junk, and building a real community? And where is it that the algorithm isn't 100% wreaking havoc yet? And I look and I'm like, you know what? I have a podcast. What does that mean? That means it should be on podcast platform. I know there's all these other platforms popping up. They're accepting podcasts because they want a piece of the market. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to try something here. I'm not going to be posting on social media. I'm going to be posting on the podcast platforms. So I plan on only contributing to my Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever my RSS feed is connected to for a podcast, where people have to subscribe and go to on a, wherever they listen to it. That's where it's going to go. Now, YouTube, I do the videos with the cover art, and I love that, and it takes the most of my time. And I still like YouTube. However, the views and the algorithm is tanking my views. I'm taking a pause right now on that. And what I'm doing is I'm still going to upload my podcast episode and let it go wherever it's going to go. So I'm going to connect my YouTube channel to the podcast RSS feed. And there's that new opportunity that they have, that new area where you can get your podcast on YouTube just through the RSS feed. Now, it's going to be a static image. I'm not happy about that. The benefit that I found out is that it's putting your podcast on YouTube Music. And that was something that, in my personal opinion, was challenging to do before. So I'm going to try this and see what it does. And so there won't be any more exciting podcast art right now. And you're not going to see it on YouTube. And it's going to, listen, I love quality and content, and I love, taking it far and beyond. So it's frustrating me to see something like, it's a static image. That sucks. Come on, we can next level this. But I realize that next leveling everything can be exhausting. And I don't have time for that anymore. I got things I got to do. I got to be successful in so many other ways. And one of the biggest things I got to be successful at is being a parent and being a good spouse and being a good human being and being good to myself and living this thing called life that is real. And so that's what I'm doing. So that's why I'm going to say this. If you enjoy this podcast, please share it with someone else. If you enjoy this podcast, please leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. If you enjoy this podcast, please check in regularly to the website or check into the Facebook group. And you can join that, again, by going to thepodcastandrough.com/learn and get inside the podcast community mastermind group. If you enjoy this, send me a DM. If you enjoy this podcast and you want to be a part of it, all you have to do is subscribe to it. And make sure you listen to every episode that comes out. It's every Friday, 8 a.m. And I really hope that I get to connect with you and help you grow your podcast. That's why I encourage you to join the Podcast Community Mastermind, because Season 3 and Season 4 were dedicated to helping you learn about how to podcast from start to success. It's all the things that I've done to help other people make hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars using podcasts. And all the strategies I've done to help people create a podcast within and around their business, and how I've helped other people create a podcast as a hobby and then just be able to meet people from all over the world and share in conversation. And so it's fun. It doesn't always have to be about money or views. It could just be something you enjoy doing. And so that's what that is for. And Season 3 and 4 talked about that. And then I shifted into Season 5, where I wanted to share a little bit more about mental health awareness, share a little bit of my story and how I'm getting better and how I'm helping my friends get better, and how trauma is real. And sometimes it'll affect you at different stages of your life. And when it does, you have to go and get help, and you have to go and work through that. And it's not fun, and it can be ugly at times. And social media is not really a place for you to be if you're going through it. So I wanted to share this journey and talk about it, because I think more people would live way better lives if they could just pinpoint what is the main source of their pain, of their trauma, and what is the things that are maybe causing them anxiety and depression or upset. And so you can get back on track to living your best life. And so I don't talk a lot about the strategies of podcasting in season 5 here. So that's what the Podcast Community Mastermind group is all about. Because inside there, I'm strictly talking about that and I'm feeding that. And I want to help you in so many ways. So with that being said, I want to say thank you so much for tuning into this episode. It's been another great episode. And this will be the first episode that hits YouTube that does not have a cover art. And this will be the first episode that I'm not really promoting on any of my social media platforms. And it's strictly relying on Apple Podcast, Spotify, and all of you to get it out there. So I'm excited about that because can it work? Will it work? Or will it tank it? And I don't know. I'm not worried about it because I've taken on challenges and taken big risks with my podcast before. And that's what it's all about. I'm heavily invested in this thing. I love it. I'm here to stay. But who gets my time? What platform really deserves me? What platform deserves your time? What is it doing for you? I want a couple things to think about. I want you to enjoy that. I'm going to play a few things right now just to remind you of all the opportunities that I have waiting for you.
If you'd like to support this podcast, buy me a coffee by heading over to buymeacoffee.com/intherough and become part of the adventure by showing your support and taking advantage of any one of our exciting membership tiers.
The Podcast in the Rough.
All right, if you would like to join the Podcast Community Mastermind group, head over to thepodcastintherough.com/learn. It's absolutely free. Inside this group, I'm geeking out with you about the setup and sound quality of your podcast. Everything that you need to make your voice sound amazing. Head over to thepodcastintherough.com/learn and get involved in the Podcast Community Mastermind group. It's absolutely free. I look forward to seeing you inside the group. All right, if you're enjoying this podcast episode, I would love for you to give me a rating and review about this podcast by heading over to thepodcastintherough.com and scrolling to the bottom of the page and leaving us a review. Or if you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please leave a star rating and a review. It would help us reach more people and get them to learn about the Podcast in the Rough. Thank you so much for your support. I appreciate it.
All right, and I just realized that I didn't oil the squeaky chair. It's one thing I've always said for the past, months. I come down here and I do this episode and I'm like squeaking on this chair. I'm like, every time I say I'm going to, oil this chair or get a new one, I don't do it. So I'm procrastinating. And with that being said, what things are you procrastinating on right now that could be moving your life forward? And some of the things I've shared in my, Facebook group, in my podcast, I've shared on stage in my virtual events that I've recently talked about. It is what can we do right now that can help us raise our energy levels, sharpen our minds, and go out there and not procrastinate and go get what we want. And I want to share this with you because it's another thing, another outlet I've promoted and I've pushed and I've built to help other people. And that is my Elevate 360 Challenge events. And it's a free event. And I don't have any of them currently going on right now. We're building a new one that's coming out. It's going to be amazing. But you can check this out by going to elevate360challenge.com. And you'll see my past events. And it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of work, but it's a lot of fun. And I get to share with you tools and tips on how to really help your life get better at its core. And one of the things I shared in the most recent one, we did an event with a good friend of mine, Milan, and it was called Abundance Unleashed. And that was just a small Facebook group event. But some of the things we shared in there were just reminding everyone about the things that are right here, right now that you can do to help you change your life one step at a time, to get out of the depression, to fight back against anxiety and find your balance, to help yourself, through the trauma or to overcome stress. And one of the biggest things that I share that I think a lot of us could start to apply right now is it's very simple. Getting up a little earlier, or dedicating 30 minutes, 30 minutes. If you can do an hour, the first thing you get up, you dedicate that time to yourself. And if you have to get up before everyone else or get up way before you got to go to work, then that's what you got to do. And so you get adequate sleep, or you get the sleep you need, but then you get up and you dedicate some time. And this is what I would do: 30 minutes of yoga or deep stretching, 10 minutes of reading a book. If you want to go 15, you can. 10 minutes of reading a good book that feeds your mind, that helps you learn, or that activates your imagination and takes you on a journey. Something that doesn't stress you out, that opens you up a little bit or feeds you new information. And then after that, reading that book, Then do 20, 30 minutes in a hot sauna. And if you don't have a hot sauna, then you can go jump in a shower and maybe do 15 minutes, wash yourself with some nice hot water, and then turn that water cold and do, try 30 seconds. Just try 30 seconds as cold as you can get it, and try to work your way up to getting to about a minute or two. And if you have the cold plunge and you could take that, you have an ice bath, go do that. If you don't have any of that and you're short on time, you can always fill up a bowl, put some ice in it, make the water real cold, and dip your face in it a few times. And that'll wake yourself up, and that'll sharpen your mind, get you ready for the day, activate the endorphins. And then once you start doing that, if you're not active and doing physical exercise, then you start off by taking walks, taking some long walks, really enjoying nature, grounding yourself. And then maybe you start looking at some weights. Can I pump some iron? Can I work out? And then I highly recommend checking out Arnold's Pump Club, because he's got a lot of great information there. It's talking about the things you need to do to start working out and get better. And take it little baby steps one at a time, and you'll get stronger and you'll get better. One of the biggest things I say is where I'm going to be in 30 days if I do this, and where am I going to be in 30 days if I don't do it. So think about it. How strong is my body going to be, or how flexible if I stretch every day for 30 days, or if I do push-ups every day for 30 days and I keep increasing the amount that I do, or the weights. I pump this much weight, boom, boom, boom. I add more weight to it. How strong will I be in 30 days every single day? Or if I read this many books, or I read this book, how smart will I be in 30 days? And then you think about it, what will happen if I don't do it? I'm going to be, if not worse. But if I challenge myself to do this, I'm going to be different. Things are going to change. I'm going to improve my mood. My body's going to be stronger, and I'm going to show up. Listen, if you're going through stuff right now in your life, I'm going to leave you with this. If you're going through stuff right now in your life, listen, go do the workouts and work on you, and do the things you can do physically, mentally, and emotionally to work on you, no matter what you're going through, because if you can get through the stuff you're going through, then you arrive on the other side of that. But instead of just arriving exhausted and then starting from that point on, you're starting right now. So then when you get through that, you're also stronger mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. And now you're like, okay, boom. And you're pushing yourself that much ahead of where you were. And it's so important to do that, because every day life is a challenge. But if we get up and we just feel defeated, we're never going to grow, never going to, feel better and move forward. Always move forward. Do your best to move forward, and make sure that you just don't stop. You can sit down for a second, but don't stop. Thank you again. Take care. This is the Podcast in the Rough.